Hi everyone, a very good day to all of you. This session is a part of the International Symposium of Women in ICT 2021. In conjunction with the International Women's Day, the School of Computing is organizing a series of insightful sessions featuring different female leaders of the ICT industry. I'm Dr. Preeti, the moderator for this session. Do feel free to ask any questions or provide your feedback during this event by using the comment box in the Facebook or YouTube. Yeah. Our speaker for this session, Ms. Padmavathy, has an extensive experience in business transformation, systems development, and banking technologies. Ms. D.K. Padmavathy currently is the Director and Head of Engineering Transformation for the Core Solutions at RBS, Royal Bank of Scotland, India. She has vast experience in retail and commercial banking for the last 24 years, and she has led several organization-wide initiatives and been the inclusion lead for Tech India. Held 11 different roles in the last 17 years, and all of them had been delivered with excellence and positive stakeholder feedback. Being a certified Scrum Master and also a certified Agile coach, it helped her to lead and develop high-performing teams where she mentored and coached the next generation leaders within her team as well as outside her team and organization. Now, we shall hear from her. Over to Ms. Padma for sharing her thoughts on her title, Passion, Perfection, and Persistence. Be inspired by her passion in her career during this session.
Thank you so much, Preeti. Okay, so hope you can hear me okay.
Yes, you can.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you. Very good morning, good afternoon, good evening to one and all present today, based on where you're joining us from for the session. Okay, so while I start the session, I do have a request. Okay, so it'll be great if I could have your undivided attention for the next 30 minutes. If this were to be a live session, I would have waited for a resounding yes before I start. But given it's a virtual one, okay, so I do look at the comments and say, yeah, if you can begin a yes, that would be wonderful. Yeah. With that, I get started. At the outset, I first would like to thank Professor Rajeshwari Mandava, okay, for this wonderful opportunity. I really love the fact that you're putting together a symposium to help women further in their career and life. It's a wonderful thought, and I could not stop myself from saying yes when this request came up from Professor. So, being part of the alumni of the same College of Engineering Gindi, both of us definitely share the passion of helping women to further in their career. So, thank you, Professor, for this opportunity, and also to Professor Suwan and Preeti for working with me over the last few days to get me to understand this session a bit better and deliver this speech today. Yeah. So thank you so much, all. Okay, I do assure you that if not all, okay, at least a couple of takeaways is something that I promised for you from the session. Okay, so look forward to that. And as they say, right, miles to go before I sleep. I do have miles to go. Okay, but with the divine force, okay, I am where I am today. I've been lucky to have the support of my parents, my husband, my sons, my close family, and my friends overall to get to where I am today. But from the journey that I've traversed, I can tell you that there are a few life lessons that I've had, and that's really what I'm going to talk to you about today. So feel free, if you have any questions during the session, to ping them in the comments window, and Preeti will help bring all of that together when we get to the question answer session towards the later part of it in the next 30 minutes. If any of your question remains unanswered, I assure you that I'll get back to you offline through Preeti as and when it comes to me. Yeah. With that, and without further ado, okay, so you'll wonder why I chose the topic, and hopefully you figure out as we move forward. I move on to the next slide, Preeti. Thank you. Okay, so here I'm going to spend the next few minutes talking to you about my career and life journey. Okay, so as I said, so each one's journey is very unique. It's quite circumstantial to where we are, what we do, what we love. Okay, and here is what you see as my journey. I graduated from the College of Engineering, Gindi, okay, a very prestigious college in the south of India. Okay, so, and I really love the college, as you can see it, yeah. Okay, so I did my triple E in College of Engineering, Gindi, And from there, I moved on to install the confectionery machinery for Paddy & Co., part of the Murugappa Group. A wonderful learning, I must say. Okay, and that's when I figured out, no, not all that I learned in textbooks can come in handy. There's so much to uncover when you start working, and especially with setting up huge machinery. It was lovely that I got an opportunity to do that because that's when the factory was set up from scratch. So everything from approvals to documentations to installation of machinery to see it work and end of it see the chocolates come out of it was wonderful. Yeah. And then after almost a year of working in that space, I figured out, probably there's something more that I would need to do. And hence I picked up my master's in business administration from the same Anna University in Chennai. Yeah, I did my master's in a completely new subject on finance and marketing. Okay, I must admit that the initial part, the first year of this master's, right, I felt that I'm a novice. I understood nothing of accounting, and I learned so much from my friends during that period. Okay, and I figured out that it's important to know all of them too. Yeah. And then I moved to join ANZ Gurley's Bank as officer in charge of clearing. Okay, so a whole world of learning came to me from them because that's really where, I saw banking in action. I must say it was the most vibrant team on the floor, okay, with so much action all through the day and round the clock. So I had loads of learning in that as well. After a couple of years in there, I moved up, okay, to at the same level as an officer, but it was completely very different field, yeah, on planning and business management. So I must say, right, as you can see through my journey, I've done varied things. I had the blessings and the fortune of my seniors calling me to say, "Hey, can you try this?" Okay, and somehow, I felt that that was always the calling from above. Okay, and I said, okay, let me pick it up. And I really tried to explore untested waters at every stage in my career. I took up these challenges. I went to start doing some planning and business management functions. Okay, so those were very different from what I have done so far. Okay, I did that for again a couple of years and until I moved into the trade functions. So this is where I learned all about the international trade. Okay, it's about imports, exports, what matters to the customer, how they get their finances, so which goods do we buy and sell, and many things, right? In terms of the commercial trade, the working capital, okay, the advances against working capital, and so many products that are there in the trade finance space is something that I learned of. It came to a stage in trade services where I almost knew when I have a call at 9 o'clock in the morning, it'll be from Unilever, and they're going to ask me what's my working capital finance, what's my credit limit, how much of kind of pre-shipment credit can I take today, followed by Weeds India. So I could kind of tell you what will happen in the first half hour of the bank starting up and the phones landing on my table. So that's really when I thought, it may be good to explore further. And I got a call from ABN AMRO in 2004, okay, to completely explore something very new again. Okay, this is about structuring new trade finance products for customers. So again, something I've never done before. Okay, so I've kind of serviced the existing products of the bank, but not designed one until then. So that was the first time, okay, and that was the time when supply chain finance was in vogue. Okay, there was so much happening across the globe in terms of supply chain. I looked at big deals like Hyundai, Castrol, to look at their supply chain finances and kind of put all of these products together. And then is when, since I designed these products, I kind of knew what does it take on the back of it. It's important to have the right systems to cater to these products, and if a bank has to succeed, technology has to be the backbone of it. Yeah, and that's when I moved on to do the system design for the trade finance applications. Yeah, again, okay, I've not done a business requirement document until then, and I learned it the hard way, right? Until you do everything at one go. Okay, so there's every possibility of the vendor coming back to you and saying, no, this wasn't the requirement, sorry, we can't do it. Okay, so now how do I defend the bank in such cases and wriggle out of it? So wonderful learnings out there. Okay, so and then I moved on. Okay, and that was, I think, almost a good 1 year I did that. Okay, and I got a call again, as I said, from above. Okay, one of my senior managers asking me if I could do training. So you must understand this was the period overall in India. There was a lot of hubbing going on. Yeah. So we were looking at onboarding a lot of people, especially in the ITES industry. Okay. And since we were ramping up in ABN AMRO, it was important that somebody focuses on building the capability of our people to support these tall challenges. Yeah. And hence this request came to me saying that why don't you set up the training function? Okay, so again, I asked my boss, I've never done this before. Do you think I can do it? Okay, so he said, yeah, I think you can do it. I went ahead. I said, fine, if you believe so, let me try it. And that's really how my training journey started. And I must say, I really, of the many roles I've done, I really love that. I learned so much personally in that space when I was heading the training function or even setting up the training function. Yeah. And that's really during that time is when I realized it's not just that, you tell people or train people, you need to pursue the learning yourself. Okay. You need to stay relevant. You need to do what's in vogue. And as an exemplary leader, it's important that, so you prove it to people that yes, you can learn, and then the whole team will follow you. And I took up the certified documentary credit specialist, which was it's a very, even today, I think it's a very difficult certification to attain. Okay. And the bigger thing there was, so there's a lot in stake for me as the head of a training function. If I don't clear it, then there's going to be so much of a flip wall if it happens. So all my people will say, please make sure that you clear the exam. So it's all with that I did, and luckily I made it. Okay, I must say. So and then I moved on, okay, to again something new, which is called, the role where I had to do some business development function. It's almost like frontline marketing, okay, slightly different because here we are looking at process having, okay, telling the leaders and big senior people in the UK, because I was part of a bank which was headquartered in the UK. It's impressing upon them the capability that we have in country, in India, in offshore, okay, and kind of drawing them to a place where they are actually convinced about investing in that capability in India offshore. Okay. A very, very different experience. I had loads of learning in that space, and it was not easy to convince people to say why they have need to do it offshore, and how is it even possible, that you can do something so many thousand miles away from where the customer is. So that's really what, so, and that role again offered a plethora of learning for me. Okay. And on the back of it, okay, so now that, seen a good level of front end sales, training, a bit around data, etc., I then moved on to look at, so the testing of the applications, making sure that our applications work as best for the customer. And I also did a bit of business implementation, because typically, for those of you in technology or have some, and it's a technical university, so I shouldn't ask that. So, but yeah, so you kind of will appreciate the fact that when you do a testing, you normally do that in some lower environments, right? It's not production environment, and hence when it goes on the go live date, it's important that it's implemented well, and that's what the business implementation role meant. So I had to make sure that all our systems land well in production in the way that it's expected to, and the customers are happy about these changes. Yeah. So I did play that role, okay, for some time. And during that is when I picked up a couple of skills, one on project management through the Prince True Practitioner, and also on Certified Scrum. I'll tell you a little bit about the Scrum journey. Okay, so if you recall, right, when way back in 2007, so when I had to do all the documentation for the systems, okay, I felt that if I had missed even one line of it, I was very rest assured that the vendor's not going to deliver it for me. Okay. And to this point where in the scrums, right, the whole concept of agile, okay, you would understand that it's all about doing it in smaller pieces, okay, faster, fail faster, and learn from that and close loop that feedback. It's a whole paradigm shift, from then to now, I would say. The whole idea of looking at them in smaller chunks, there is no today nobody looks for a long BRD or a change which can be delivered 1 year later, because a lot of it could become completely irrelevant. The markets must have changed, the customer expectations would have changed, and why the technology itself would have changed. Okay, and that's where I felt, if I have to lead a team of people and tell them that this is how they should do, I need to understand the nuances of it much better. Okay, and hence I picked up the agile certification, and Scrum being one of the popular methods of agility. Okay, I did the certified Scrum Master certification there. Okay, and from then again, so I then moved on to set up the test execution function for core banking and payments. This is a global function. This function caters to the not just a particular business unit but across the organization. Okay, and hence it meant that so we scale up to also some things at an enterprise level. Okay, and that's really when I picked up the safe learning. Okay, safe, as you know, is scaled agile framework for enterprises. So it's an enterprise level agility that's required. Okay, and that's really where I picked up that. And since I had the skill, okay, and then came my current role where I am now, looking at engineering transformation. So in this role, what me and my team are accountable for is to drive agility across technology, okay, across core solutions technology where I'm a part of, okay, and also ensure that along with driving agility, we look at speeding up the work, okay, looking at practices around DevOps, around continuous integration and continuous development. How can we develop things faster, making sure that you have a standard way of doing things and more automated way of doing things. Yeah, so that's really where I picked up that skill, and in order for me to train teams on that, I needed to become an agile coach myself. Yeah, to tell them that how do we do value slicing, so how do we look at things slightly differently, and in all this, right, the culture transformation is very important. And if you got to drive a whole set of people across a wide unit, and spread across multiple geographies, it's not going to be easy unless you have the skills to do that. And hence I kind of made sure that I sharpen my skills to kind of become a certified agile coach myself. So that's really where I am today. I know that I have miles to go. Okay, so and but I'm hoping that that kind of gave you a glimpse around the varied things that I have done in my career. And if I look back, I'm quite happy. Okay, with the fact that so with two things, right? So one is the fact that yes, there has been some kind of a force that kept pushing you to move forward. Okay, so and it's important that we identify that force, right? So it could be a divine force, it could be a force related to somebody whom you're very closely associated with, whatever, right? So but it's important that we understand that calling and kind of travel the path. Okay, you need to take a bit of a risk when you move. Okay, and no risk no reward, right? So we need to make sure that we are kind of progressing, and that's the only way that you can learn so much. Okay, today the world is changing a lot. There are a lot of things are looking at T-bar skills. If you Google, you'll figure out. Okay, so what the T-bar skill says is that yes, it's important for you to have a whole paradigm of skills. In some areas, you really need to go deeper. Okay, so no longer the concept of general management or generic skills work, and hence is why it becomes important for us to stay relevant. So that's really my career journey. So Preeti, if I may request you to just move to the next slide, please. Thank you so much. Okay, so here the fun begins, right? So, yeah, I kind of put this together. So, I know that we have a lot of academicians here, from the university itself, and some of you are alumni from the same college, some of you are studying. Okay, so let me assure you, right? This is the best period. The fun part of your life is when you're learning. Okay, so make the best of this time. Okay, you'll see that there is so much happening beyond when you get out of the university into the wild, into the wilderness, I would say. Okay, so reason because there's so much of uncertain and unknown factor when you get out of the campuses, and you plunge yourselves into any life, whether you want to start up your own organization, okay, whether you want to be a part of a corporate, you want to do some social serve work, whatever, right? So in all of this there is so much uncertainty, and unless and you're preparing yourself for that while you are in your universities, so it's going to be difficult. And hence so yes, there's loads of learning, but there's loads of fun as well, so make the best out of it. Yeah, so I now quickly move on. Yeah, so and so this is why, so I mean, I put the years there because so I kind of associate with so around that time what happened. And so to me, if you look at it, I was telling you, right, so this is the time when I moved after my graduation immediately, and I joined the confectionery industry. Okay, so and I figured out that doing is not as easy as learning, right? So it was easy for you to learn about the induction motors, right, and present papers and all that stuff. But actually, when you start kind of implementing this in the factory floor, okay, there's so much that you had to know if you and it's not as easy, believe me. Okay, so that's and the first lesson of my life was never assume. Yeah, I'll tell you why. Okay, very interestingly, we had the whole confectionery unit set up, and it was all ready, right? It was the trial run was about to happen, or rather, it was going on. Okay, so we used to manufacture those candies then. It was called the Lacto King. I'm sure none of you would have even heard of it today. Okay, so probably some of you all who are professors would have heard of it, right? So it was called the Lacto King and the caramel candies. Okay, so I used to love them though. Okay, so when we were manufacturing this, so from the conveyor belt, okay, the fan was kept almost at 2 meters away, from the conveyor belt. Okay, and my job was to ensure that it flows through the whole belt, and when it gets dropped, it will automatically get wrapped and then move on. Yeah, so to see it through, to make sure that the whole thing is done until it gets wrapped and the boxes are moved away. Okay, so obviously, right? So you're young, you kind of don't have as much patience. Why don't we do things faster? So, and then I figured out, so why is the fan so much away? So, rather makes sense for me to bring it closer so it cools it faster. Okay, and the whole process gets done faster. Okay, I moved it, and guess what? Okay, so the day ended well, I finished faster. So, and then, it was my German boss, okay, who was in charge of the whole thing, the whole unit. He called me in the evening, okay, so and then said, so those days, we didn't have as much public transport. Okay, if I'm going to miss my the bus at 5:30, okay, from the factory, which was not in a very residential area, you can be rest assured I'm not going to be back home until 8. And we never had these phones to call people or SMS them, text them, tell them that so I'm going to be late and all that stuff. Okay, so that used to be the time, then. So this person calls me almost when I was about to leave and said, guess what you did today? So I thought he's going to appreciate me for what I've done, and I was really expecting some appreciation, I must say. And then he called and said, okay, here, eat it. He gave me around five, almost 7, 8 of them. Yeah, and said, eat it. So normally, he would not even allow you to touch one of it, as a sample. So I thought that was a reward in itself, So he's asking me to eat it. And as I started putting one into my mouth, I realized, so probably something has gone wrong. Okay, it was so hard. I really couldn't eat it, couldn't even chew it. Okay, so and then so he just gave it to me and went off and said, call me when you're done. Okay, I said, what the hell? I really can't finish the whole thing. So it was so hard. And then, I went and asked him, so did something go wrong? Okay, and then he said, yes. Okay, so there's a reason why the fan is kept at a distance. It has to cool slowly. Okay, so you cannot hurry things up. You need to give it time. Okay, so don't assume. You should have asked. Okay, so that's been my first life lesson. So don't assume. Okay, if you think there's something better, ask. So and things are there for a reason. It's important to ask, and from then, believe me. Okay, so I've always been telling my people, right, that it's important. Okay, that you need to know. Okay, what you're doing. If you don't know, ask. Yeah, so that's an important stuff. So I leave that with you to ponder upon, to see, so if there is any instances when you have assumed, okay, where you shouldn't be assuming, rather ask the question. I move on quickly. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. So here is when, right? I said I took up to a completely different learning. Okay. So after 1 year of doing all this rigor in the factory, I felt that that's probably not where I'm going to survive for a long time. Okay. So I picked up my master's. Okay. So yes, I had this discussion, so, and should I do something better? Is it good to do? There were multiple things, right? So you've done so much in the factory floor. Should you and learned so much? Should you take that kind of a decision? So that's really where, So I would urge you all to follow your passion. If you think that's something that you want to do, it's one life, try it. Okay, so at hindsight, you can always take better decisions, but at that moment, and if you think that's something that you would need to decide and move on, I think we should do that and give it your full commitment if you've taken that decision. That's one thing that you need to do and ensure. Okay, so I did this, I took up, okay, and today if I reflect back, I'm happy, I think, so in terms of taking that decision to pursue my studies further. Yeah, so it's important to have the passion in everything that you do. Okay, the job may be small or big. Okay, so you should have pride in what you do and be passionate about delivering it to your best. Yeah. So I then quickly then, okay, so here is when, right? So when I moved on then as a officer in charge of clearing, okay, so I mean, I figured out that there are people who there who are experts, so they've done this for many years. Okay, and these were days in the banking when we had, things from, so officer is kind of two levels above, right? So there were a lot of banking assistants, a clerical staff, okay, so who probably, they chose to do like that, and they're very senior members in that space. So it's not easy to get in, as an officer in charge, okay, and that too without knowing the tricks of the trade, right? Okay, so you just went there, you learned it, but you've not applied it. Okay, so I think it's important to be bold to say I don't know and learn from others. The moment you kind of understand this, right, there is so much learning that you will have every day in your life. Okay, it's not necessary that it's necessary, not even, it's not even possible, I think, that a person knows everything. Yeah, so you probably don't know much of it, and just spot the right persons and make sure that you learn from them. Yeah, that's important. So be bold, okay, to say no. That was my lesson here. I move on to the next one. Yeah, okay, so here, yeah, so is where it says, about face tough situations head on. Yeah, so this is important because, so when I moved from here, right, so there were, I mean, there were a lot of mistakes, as you can expect that everybody makes early on in career, right? Okay, so I made some grave errors also, okay, when I started my career journey. Okay, and that's when, so I had very excellent, leaders who guided me, okay, who stood for me and said that don't worry, this too will pass, you can learn from this. So it was not easy. Okay, so that's when I learned that you shouldn't shy away from any mistakes. If there is a challenge, face it head on. Don't procrastinate. Don't say that I'll look at it later. That later never happens. It's important to do it then and now. Okay, and in such situations, accept the mistake. Okay, face it head on. See what could have been done better. Apologize, acknowledge, set things in order. Okay, so that you kind of ensure that it doesn't repeat again. So that's been one very important lesson I learned. Okay, so when I was in my initial years in Z. Yeah, I quickly move on. Okay, so here, yeah, of course, as I said, right? So, yeah, it's not easy when you go in as a lateral staff, right? So, there are people, okay, in the organization, and for all of you who probably are getting into some organization at this point of time or in your early stages in career, you will acknowledge what I'm saying, right? Because so there are people in every organization who've been there for many years, who have a lot of expertise in the things that they do, okay, and hence when you join, right? So, your tag actually doesn't matter. What are you called? Are you an officer? Are you a manager? Are you a director? Okay, so yes, those are incentives that follow you, okay, but that shouldn't be your driver. Yeah, okay, so that really doesn't matter. So I think, so leave that baggage aside and make friends along the way. You'll really cherish the journey. You look forward to pursuing that journey, if you really take off that tax. So that little bit of a weight is what we should learn to shed, okay, and make sure that you create some very good friends. Be surrounded with positive people because they are the ones who kindle that inspiration in you. Yeah, and they make sure that you drive, and in the process they come along. So make sure that you have the right accompaniments. Yeah, moving on. Yeah. Okay. So this is when I moved from, Standard Chartered into ABN AMRO, as I said, right? So at this part, so having been in Standard Chartered, I mean, actually, I was in ANZ. ANZ by renamed, I mean, it was acquired by Standard Chartered, so became Standard. So although I was part of the same organization, okay, a good 7 years I spent, right? So I wasn't too sure should I leave it, not, and there were multiple things going on in your head. Okay, so it was quite comfortable, the people, the process, your customers also what more to ask for, right? Okay, so but this came a call saying that, why don't you try this? So it's important, right? So at some point you need to pause think, take that calculated risk. Yeah, so you need to stretch yourself. Okay, you need to go through the pain of the unknown. Okay, because that's when you will learn a lot of new things. Okay, so yes, it's good to excel in what you do. Okay, but the moment you think that you're getting into your comfort zone, it's important to break that and move forward. Okay, and that will throw a whole world of opportunities for you to further your skills and career. So never miss such chances. If something knocks at your door, think about it. Okay, think it's going to be beneficial for you, and be prepared to take those calculated risks. Yeah. Okay, moving on. So here, yeah, so again, challenge yourself. Yeah, so as I've been telling you so far, right? Okay, explore untested waters. When my manager asked me, right, so why don't you go and set up the training function? I've never done training so far, right? Okay, so it's something absolutely new for me. So can I do it? When I did system design, I've never done that before. Okay, so can I do so? But there is somebody who thinks that you can do. Okay, they're saying it because they've seen you, they've observed you. Okay, I think you should just follow that, right? Trust them and just move on. Okay, so it's worked for me. Okay, you can definitely try it out. Okay, I'm sure I'm really wishing if there's an opportunity to hear some of your stories. So on the back of this, that will be wonderful a few years from now. Yeah, so please don't kind of be very make yourself very comfortable. Okay, because I say that that's a cozy spot, right? At that spot, it's all nice. Okay, but then it probably may not lead you to where you want to be. Okay, so please kind of push yourself a little harder and challenge yourself further. Yeah. And moving on, yeah, so yeah, as I said, right, so there's a lot of good people around. Okay, so they guide you, you just have to trust them. Okay, they guide you because they've seen you, they've seen you, they know that you can deliver. Okay, and hence they are telling you that no, this is possible. So make sure that so you, I mean, of course, you need to have a good rapport with those people. Okay, and on the back of that, you just need to trust them and plunge into doing things. Yeah. Quickly moving on, okay, to the next one. Okay, so here is when I said I set up the training function, and then I learned. I'm sure hats off to all the academicians in this call. Knowing and teaching are two very very different things. Okay, you can know a lot of stuff, but it's when it comes to teaching and teach until people understand and learn, okay, are very different things. So it's not going to be easy to teach, and for you to teach someone, you should probably learn twice or thrice as much as you already know. Yeah, and that's when I figured out that teaching is honestly hats off to Raji and all the other senior professors and doctors in this call, right? So hats off to all of you. Okay, I really have a lot of fondness attached to this profession. Okay, because I think you shape up the youngsters. Okay, and a lot of what kids learn are taken from you than from the books itself. At this point, I'll just pause for a minute. Okay, so I just need to get my battery switched on, and I'll just be back. 1 second, please. Apologies, I just needed to get the battery on. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, moving on to the next slide, Raji and Preeti. Yeah, so here is when, right? So, yeah, this is an important learning I really want to share with all of you, right? Okay, so when the moment you're out, and today in this digital era, it's you don't even need to stand in a corner, right? Okay, at every moment, the GPRS tracks where you are, what you do, etc. Okay, so but then at that point in 2010, right, I really learned this lesson. So while you could be yourself, you can do whatever, you come and go and all that, but remember that you need to understand that, so you're under the constant monitor. Okay, and you should leverage it for your good. There's a lot of executive presence that you create when you are in an organization, and especially when you grow up into the middle to the senior levels of an organization. Yeah, people watch you, they learn so much from you. I've had instances when, very from a very different team, you're not working with those members, they come and connect with you and say, you know what, I saw you said this on this day, probably I wouldn't recall, right? Okay, and you know what, I really took that seriously and I tried it and it worked for me. What a nice feeling, if to learn that, somebody has been, learned so much from you. Okay, it's not easy, right? Okay, for somebody to come and tell you that. And again, right, so even for your own good, so I've had my seniors come and tell me, you know what, okay, so, and I talked to you about the business development role, right? I've never done that before, and honestly, I was, quite tense when I picked up that role. I wasn't sure if I'm going to be delivering it at all. Okay, because it needed that, and I've never done frontline marketing in my career. Okay, and here is where somebody is investing in me. Okay, they're asking me to go over to the UK and talk about the skills that we have in India, and kind of promote the concept of hubbing. Okay, and and when and then I asked them, so why me? Why did you choose me to do this? Okay, and they came up and said two, three things. So what? We've been looking at you, so you participate a lot in a lot of organizational events when it comes to, kind of, I mean, that's where, so importantly, I think all of you as youngsters should know it. Okay, so it's good to do things parallel. Okay, but you should have the patience, okay, to listen to anything when that is said. Pay attention to things when it's told to you. Be alive in any circumstance. If you're going to be there for a half an hour, make the best out of it. Make your presence felt during that period. Okay, so I used to ask questions in town halls when seniors speak, but those were very genuinely some questions I would have had in my mind, right? I never asked because I have to ask. Okay, and probably that passion came out when I asked these questions. So these people came and told me, you know what, I've seen you in all these forums where you're quite interactive. Okay, so you're groomed well. So grooming matters again, right? So you need to be very well groomed. You need to be presentable. Yeah. So they said all of these things is really what we think, we want in the individual we are looking at for the role, and you have all of it. Okay, and when they said this to me, honestly, I felt nice about it. Okay, but still I took that with a pinch of salt and then said, okay, let me try. I don't know what it's in store, but you should be prepared if I don't get back any business to you. Okay, so they were happy to invest in me. Okay, and said that no, I think we're confident, go ahead. And I'm very glad to say that no, we did some 5 different process hubbings during that period. Okay, so again, that presented a load of learnings for me. Yeah, I then move on, okay, to the next bit. Okay, so here, yeah, so here is when, right, so perfect the art, it's very, very important. As you would have seen in my career and learning journey, at various points I called out what are the kind of certifications I've done. Okay, I've done this not because I need to have a big title of certifications on the back of my name. If you see, I don't put any of those certifications against my name. Okay, but the reason I did this is because, and I continue to do this as well, because I believe that there isn't any shortcut to learning. Yeah, so you have a better command, okay, of the subject, okay, only when you learn it. Okay, and the moment you know the subject on the back of your hand, you really, command respect from your people. People trust you so much, you don't need to tell them that no, you have to do, they know that you know the business quite well. Okay, and hence they can't fool around. Okay, so they then come and want to have some conversations with you. Okay, and see how can we do things better. So, in order for us to do all this, it's important for us to perfect the arts. Yeah. Whatever small or big thing that you do, it's important that you do it with dedication. Okay. And know the best of what it is. Don't just do it. It may be different. I know it's not easy when you do some assignments, submissions. You just have to meet the timelines as well. You need to push things forward. Okay. But when you do it, make sure that, in all of that, you have at least one learning for you in that journey. The moment you start doing this, you'll really cherish it better. Yeah. I then quickly move on, okay, to here. Yeah. So size doesn't matter. So this is the time in my career, right? So when I moved various teams, as I said, yeah. So at this point, when I moved teams, some of them have been really big teams. Yeah. So, and I say big teams, teams to the size of around 250, 300 members. Okay. So, and people were, so from all parts of the geographies, so there were so many people, and I had to manage some remote teams. Okay. So all of that were there at that point of time. Okay. And to an extent, where in, for example, in training and even in my current role, right, it's a pretty small team, so they're all kind of very closely knit small team. So it doesn't matter, right? Okay. So for example, people always look at, so what you know by saying how big a team are you managing? Yes, it's an important aspect. Okay, it's an important aspect to the extent that it tells whether you have the ability to manage and lead so many people and provide them the sense of direction and purpose. Yeah, so that's important. But that aside, okay, it's just another number. It doesn't matter. Okay, I don't think we should get overwhelmed by the fact, so whether it is a small 100,000 member team. Yes, you need to have the skills to manage that scale, and but equally you should have the ability to scale down as well whenever required. Yeah. So that's really where I want to leave you with. Numbers are important, but that should not be your driving factor, whether it is for anything, right? In terms of, how big is this organization? Okay, so what is my monetary benefit on the back of the role that I'm getting? How quickly have I made it in career? Nothing of this, So I think you should leave the numbers aside and kind of cherish and be passionate about what you're doing, so all the other things will follow. Yeah. Moving on, okay, from here, yeah, yeah, stay relevant. The world is really changing. Yeah. Some of the skills, if I look back when I started my career, okay, I don't think if I had to just sit back and kind of cherish those moments and say, I do have the skills, I've done this then way back in 2003, 4, I don't think it's any longer relevant. Yeah. So it's very dynamic. Things are changing so much. It's important for us to stay relevant and sharpen our saws constantly. Pick up relevant learnings. Okay, make sure you're relevant because it's so easy to get obsolete in today's world. Yeah, believe me, there's so much uncertainty there. There's so much dip in, the various external headwinds, right? So you saw the last year and how the pandemic broke, and all our lives came to a standstill. Is this something that we even envisaged? Not really, right? So many things had happened. Okay, so many unfortunate things where numbers had gone down, economy had gone down. To the same on the flip side, right? So many positive things, right? There are so many new industries which mushroomed during that period. So many people tried to innovate and come up with wonderful ideas and opportunities. So everything, there is, there are two sides to a coin. Look at the brighter side, and it's very important for you to stay relevant and keep sharpening your sauce. Okay, so look at things which are relevant for you and make sure that you are, I mean, what do I say? You should place yourself in a compelling position, right? Where people approach you for things. Okay. And that's really when, you can ensure that you don't become obsolete. Yeah. So quickly moving on from there. So yeah, so here is another important learning. All of you are from the University of Innovation and Technology, so I don't need to say this to you. Okay, so probably between when you started your 4 years to when you're ending it itself, it's changed. So times change, and so does technology. Okay, so keep pace with it. It's important. Okay, so sometimes it's just about getting your hands dirty. Okay, so the little reluctance, the inertia, you should break it, okay, and kind of plunge into things. You would get it wrong once, twice. As I said, don't shy away from telling people I don't know. Ask people who know. Okay, so I spend a lot of time with graduates who join us. Okay, to understand so what's in vogue. Okay, and learn from them. I spend some time with my teenage sons, and my little one to understand, because they know so much on technology. Okay, so I need to learn. So all of you also know so much on technology. Okay, so make sure that so you keep pace with those changes. Okay, and use it for your good. That becomes extremely important. Yeah. So yeah, moving on. So here is where so I mean, again, a very very important thing. So doing it yourself is easier. Influencing others to do needs persistence. Yeah, you need to constantly keep breaking those ceilings, breaking barriers, and moving forward. Okay, so you need to have the patience, okay, to follow it. Very important. You can do everything yourself, I mean, again, so you can't, well, I said you can do, yes, it may take time, yeah, you can do. Okay, but can you imaginably do some 200 people's work yourself in an organization? You probably can't, right? You will never be able to do. Okay, but you need to influence others positively to do it. Okay, so that's important. In order for doing that, you need persistence. Okay, so you should continuously keep pushing. You should make sure that, and that's an opportunity for the others to learn as well, right? And sometimes when you show them the outcome, for example, there are cases where, so I've worked with some of my people, and I've probably turned down something 12 times. Okay, so, and at the end of it, if you actually see the outcome that comes out of the 13th time to where it started, they would themselves appreciate to say, oh my God, I never thought it would translate into something like this. Yeah. So, but to do that, okay, your hands will itch to get it, kind of go and do it yourself. Okay, but believe me, when you're doing it, okay, you're not teaching the other person how to do it themselves. Yeah, it's important to ensure that they also learn their life skills by making mistakes and perfecting the art. And for that, you need the persistence to stay along, break boundaries, and follow that. Yeah, so that's really where, okay, so I think, a lot of learnings. And yeah, if you can just flip on. Yeah, this leads me to the final one. I want to really wish each one of you, okay, best wishes for your journey. Okay, and I'm sure, as I said, right? So times change and so does technology. Okay, and my humble request and wish to all of you is, what's taken, us 20-24 years to learn all of this. You're probably going to do it in less than 5-10 years. Yeah. So I'll be more than happy to really hear your journeys. Okay, and see if you have any questions on the back of what I just spoke. Thank you for patiently listening to me. Okay, so, and I look forward to hearing any questions if you may have. You're on mute, Preeti.
Sorry, thanks. That was very, very exciting and also very interesting to hear about all the different challenges, how you went through so much of learning over all these years until a couple of years ago maybe. You are still studying here and you say there are miles to go, right? For the audience, please ask your questions in the comment box. Some of your comments have already been received, so they're going to be flashed on screen right now. There's a lot of positive feedback about the talking and about the sharing just now. So we are going to flash only some of the questions here. So there's a question from Vinodini. So asking for tips on how do you share this positivity in the current online area?
Okay. Hope you felt positively charged, Vinodini, after this session. So that's an example of how it can be done in an online area. Okay, so I think it's important, if I had understood your question, right? So be genuine. Okay, be live at the moment. It doesn't matter whether it is online, whether it is face to face, right? Okay, so you need to make sure that you are listening more than you're speaking. Okay, so in all earnest, you should make sure that, the if it is a two-way conversation, or if it is even a group chat, okay, it is important for you to convince members that you're there with them for the purpose, okay, and be fully present in that situation and be live. The moment you're doing that, right, you already have conveyed to them that you're here for a reason, you're part of the whole gang. Okay, and with that, okay, and with your natural self, you can definitely look at the ways of positively influencing things. Let me tell you, with if there is positivity all around you, yeah, it's just up to us to look at the right things in everybody. Yeah, every person around you can inspire you in some way. Okay, and again, equally, there could be negatives and all around you as well. So pick the positives. Look at what you want to spend your time and energy on. Now, case there are some things that you could probably change from your circle of influence, some probably you can't, right? So look at the positives in everyone and try and see if that applies to you and pick that up from that interaction. That's been a lot of learning for me, and I hope that helps you also.
Okay, sounds perfect. So look at the positives from everyone. Yeah. So here's another question from Conrad. Is it important to be a perfectionist, maybe during all situations?
Wonderful question. So, in fact, yeah, there's a whole lot of debate around this area, right? Okay, so it should be perfect, so it's okay to lead with imperfections. So yes, okay, so honestly, yes, it's fine, okay. But the reason I said perfect the art is you should know what it means to perfect it. Yeah. That said, you should also pick up the skills, okay, to deal with imperfections and operate in chaos. Yeah. But for you to appreciate that, you should know what good looks like. Unless you are, in a position to appreciate what good looks like, you probably would never get there. Yeah. But at the same time, you should understand that it's not going to be an equal terrain at all points of time. You got to deal with imperfections, you got to deal with chaos every time. Yeah. So if there's not one day when I've started off, my work even till today, saying that this is what I'm going to do today, and actually at the end of the day I ended up doing only that. Yeah, it never happens. Every day I start off with something, but I lead to get to somewhere else. So that kind of shows that there's so much of uncertainty, right? Happens every day. You should just be prepared for it. Okay, if you're going to say that I will do this first, get this in order, and then do the rest next one, it's never going to happen. You should be in a position to deal with doing things parallelly, even operating amidst chaos, but at the same time retain your focus on what looks like. Never kind of get that away from your focus, and that's really how it can help you to get towards that. Okay, and don't expect that every day is going to be a perfect day though.
Okay. All right. We are getting many questions here from both our Facebook and YouTube streams. Based on the time, we will flash another couple of questions if it's okay with you. Yeah. So here's a
Sure.
question from Zazan Media Works. So about being relevant, there's a lot of takeaways from this slide, and maybe being relevant is one thing that all of us should remember. So how do you think we have to stay relevant with technology coming up every other day?
Yeah, great question. So, yes, as I said, right? So, it's changing every other day. Okay. But believe me, okay, so while the terms change, right? Okay, so we're saying that, yeah, today everybody is saying that it needs to be cloud native technologies. You're going to expose everything as APIs. You're looking at microservices. But then, if you, I mean, as a pure technologist at heart, if you actually look at all of this, right? And if you're going to break any problem into small, simple steps, all of this become very easy. Correct. So it's ultimately just the syntax that matters. Yeah. Okay, the crux of what you want to do lies in the design. Okay, lies in your understanding of the design and the ultimate purpose of why you're doing things. Okay, everything else around, okay, the particular language to use. Okay, so yeah, today suddenly somebody says no, .NET is no longer relevant, or somebody then says no, there's a lot of demand for .NET. So which one should I pursue? Right? Should I look at Java, Angular, JS? So there are so many other technologies that is there. Yes. Okay, but the key is you should create the ability in you to understand what is expected. All of these, according to me, are syntax. The moment you have your algorithm right, none of this should matter. And the moment you are able to get it with that clarity, you should have absolute confidence and faith in yourself that whatever these changes, in a couple of days I'll be able to learn it. And I think that's all that it takes. Okay, but you should give it that commitment. Acknowledge that you don't know, sit, learn. It's not going to please. And today there is so much tools available online, for you to understand all of this better. And there are so many sandbox environments for you to try and fail. Okay, and today people appreciate that you fail and fail fast. What more? Give it a go.
Yeah. Okay, sounds great. So at least we have to start with trying first. Yeah. Okay. Shall we have one last question for today? Is there anything you will wish younger graduates to keep in mind for the future?
Yes, yeah. So all of you, right? So my best wishes to all of you for a very flourishing career ahead. Okay, so only thing that I would ask you to keep in mind, okay, is that every day or everything cannot go as what you expect it to be. Yeah, I've seen a lot of grads, right, very quickly succumbing to that pressure, to that, for the fear of unknown, okay, for the fear of, not getting what I wanted. And sometimes we think that, things can be achieved very quickly, fast. Have that, build that patience in you. Okay, I would think that's a very important virtue for all of us to pursue. Okay, so build that patience. It's fine. If it doesn't happen today, it will happen tomorrow. Yeah. But then while you're patiently holding on to it, okay, as I said, no, do all the other things that would take you towards the success, whether it is sharpening your saws, persistently following it, whatever. Yeah. So that's one thing I would really leave you all with is, build that patience. Okay, while you're continuing to focus on all your, nothing can happen the moment you wish it to happen. Yeah, there are so much of external headwinds and things changing all over, okay, at any part of the globe. So you should appreciate that there are uncertainties all around you, and for you to weigh these uncertainties, it's important that you deal them with your calm mind and build the patience in yourself.
Okay. Sounds perfect. Sounds perfect. Thank you for sharing all your thoughts and advice with us. So, in addition to your title, I would say it's a passion, perfection. There's also patience to be there, yeah, to succeed. All right. Thank
Absolutely.
you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Fatma, for sharing with us your experience and your journey of this perfection and persistence. It was really very great to hear from you. Once again, I extend a warm note of thank you and appreciation to the speaker here. Thanks to the audience as well for your insightful feedback, for the lovely questions, even though we were not able to discuss all of them during this 1 hour here. The next session will be at 6 p.m. Malaysian time with another interesting speaker and exciting topic. So, thank you, everyone, and bye. Take care.
Thanks all. All the best. Bye.
Thank you.